sense authority. One of the things you sense in prayer before anything else is you first begin to sense authority. You sense a power that says, I can do this. You sense something that makes you feel stronger going in than you were at the beginning. This is why after you come out of prayer, you feel so convinced of who you are and what it is that you can do and where it is that you can go. Because when you go in the Spirit, the first thing that gets renewed is your authority. Because every other time we lose sight of authority. We're losing sight of authority. Because the prince of this ear, he's only of the ear, he's not of the earth. And if you think about ear, you think about wind. You think about ear, you think about wind. You think about wind, you think about words. You think about words, you think about spirits. He is only the God of the air. This is why all he can do is circle words around your mind. Wind. All he can do, because he don't really control earth. He doesn't control what you walk on. He doesn't control what you touch. He controls wind. So he can just come by and blow down. And if you're not careful and you allow the wind to take you up, you will get lost in the wind of all your doubts and fears dragging you. You forget your authority. Wind. Fear. Doubt. It's just wind. It's air. It's things that's passing by as thoughts, blowing through your mind so you can forget where your weight is, because the wind can't do nothing if you're firmly grounded. Wind can only move you if you're not heavy enough to withstand it. Anything rooted cannot just be uprooted by wind. It got to be a real strong wind. It got to be a storm. But just a regular wind can't uproot a tree, because its roots are so firmly gritted in the foundation that it cannot just be moved. So what is he doing? He's blowing wind all over to mess with the minds so we can forget our sovereignty. But when you are in the Spirit, you are anchored. And then you're back into your place of sovereignty. The Bible says he didn't leave this earth in subjugation to angels. So when you say, oh, angels come fight for me, they're like, I can't do anything unless you tell me what you want me to do. Because even I am in submission to your voice when it comes to this place. In the heavenly realms, the Lord controls me. In the earthly realms, you got to tell me where to go, or else I can't just get up and go. All the areas that you think you have no power over, you actually have authority over it all. Because he has crowned you with glory and honor. That means when the earth sees you, it sees someone it needs to respect. I love, there's a little plant in Jamaica. It's called, we call it the sleepy something. Yes. I won't even say the name because y'all gonna be confused. When you touch the plant, it actually goes to sleep. Like a sleeping willow, but it literally, all of its leaves close and it goes right down. And like it just drops like that, right? And if you go like this to all of them, the whole thing will just drop.
I see it on YouTube.
It's similar to a sleeping willow, but Jamaicans have a name for it that I can't pronounce. I can pronounce it, but y'all be like, oh, what's that? That analogy is so precise to how earth is in submission to humanity. And the Lord wanted me to remind you today, he is sovereign. And he is imputed unto you sovereignty. So every time you think God is so awesome and he's so great and he's so mighty and he's so powerful, he's looking at you and he's like, you're so awesome. You're so great, because what he did in breathing in you was crowning you with himself. He's sovereign. And everything is submitted to his sovereignty and is submitted to yours. It's submitted to yours. But you have to begin to stop being tossed with every wind. And first remember, if you don't remember anything else, first always remember who's sovereign. Because it's easy when you are facing hardship to forget who's sovereign. Sometimes we think the money is sovereign. Lord, what am I going to do? I don't have no money. We done gave God the money more sovereignty than God. Instead of saying, Lord, direct me in a word that brings money to me, because it is in submission to me. It's in submission to me. Because technically God didn't create money, but he created trees. And trees create money. So it's in submission to you. And trees breathe. Everything that breathes is in submission to you. Remember who's sovereign. Because it's the problem is we're forgetting who's sovereign. And if he's sovereign, he has supreme power and authority. And the one who walks in sovereignty possesses the ability to walk in supreme authority, even in a limited space. I'm in a tight room, but it doesn't take away from my sovereignty. I'm between a rock on a hard place, but it doesn't take away from that I am still sovereign over it. I may be sitting among lions like Daniel, but I'm still sovereign. I may be hanging on a cross like Jesus, but I'm still sovereign.
Come on, Holy Ghost, yes.
It doesn't matter because you're in a place. It doesn't take away from your sovereignty. Who's sovereign? Remember who's sovereign first. Because if you forget who's sovereign, you forget whose authority you operate in. You forget who you really are and what you really possess. The Lord said to tell them, I said, I am sovereign. And I kept going, God, but what else? He said, tell them, I said, I am sovereign. I'm sovereign. Because even when we were in a mess, he found us. Even when we were messed up in our own selves, he found us. And he was sovereign then, and he's still sovereign today.
Yes, Lord.
One last scripture, and then we're going to close out. Ezekiel chapter 16. I want to show you his sovereignty. And there's a bunch of scriptures. Acts 27, they're in a boat. And they're getting ready to, they're getting ready to crash. They don't know what else to do. They're getting ready to die. And the Lord speaks to Paul and says, you will not die in this crash. Tell them I said you will not die. And when the sovereign Lord speaks, everything has to line up.
Come on, Holy Ghost, that's it.
So when he speaks to him in the boat, he goes out, he says, listen, don't worry, we ain't dying on this one. He says, y'all gonna get some food because y'all gonna need some strength. Because when this boat lands on land, we gonna need some strength to walk around and find something else. And surely enough, they ate, they strengthened their body. And when they got up and looked, they were on land. Because God, who is sovereign, says, you will not die on this one.
Come on.
As long as the sovereign Lord has spoken, then it means everything must line up to what he says. He's sovereign.
Yes.
See, he has supreme authority. This is why, if God has already said to you, this is one is not going to kill you, you have nothing to worry about. Go get your strength back now. That's what you need to do. Focus on keeping strong. Focus on staying focused, because guess what? The sovereign one has already spoke. He spoke already. So I'm good. Ezekiel, and just read like verses 5 and 6. It's a different topic, but I just want to just pull out those two things. I can't go into that because that's a whole other message. Somebody just read that real quick for me. Ezekiel 16, just 5 and 6, really fast.
No, I pitied you to do any of these things for you, to have compassion on you. But you were thrown out into the open field when you yourself were loathed on the day you were born. And And when I passed by you and saw you struggling in your own blood, I said to you in your blood, live. Yes, I said to you in your blood, live. I made you thrive like a plant in the field, and you grew, matured, and became very beautiful.
Stop right there. He says, even when nobody else had mercy on you, when nobody recognized your worth and your value, the sovereign God passed by you and saw you wallowing in your own blood, and he said, live.
Come on.
And one word caused humanity. And this is off topic a little bit. It's not theologically sound, so I'm just flowing a different way.
Go shower.
He saw you in your own blood. He saw you mess up in your own way. But he turned to you and he said, live, because he's sovereign. And that one word said twice to a people caused them to grow, to be beautiful, to be changed, to be matured. One word from the sovereign Lord is all you need. But you got to remember who's sovereign. Who's sovereign? Because if I forget who's sovereign, I forget what he has done for me. He's sovereign. He don't need anybody. He don't need any help. He doesn't need anybody else. He doesn't need anything else. He is sovereign. He is God all by himself. Witches can't talk to you if the sovereign God has already spoken. Witchcraft can't affect you if the sovereign God has already spoken. Hexes and negative words can't affect you if the sovereign Lord has already spoken. Has he spoken? Has he spoken? And he must have spoken because you're in his presence. And you couldn't find his presence until you knew he was sovereign. He's sovereign. What is it that you're in that you think the sovereign Lord cannot do? What is it that you're up against you think the sovereign Lord cannot fix? He's sovereign. Sovereign. Sovereign to the point that he needs no aid. I said it before, Moses lays at the sea and I watched that movie. You know I gotta find the good out of it though. He lays, Moses, kings and whatever. He throws his sword in the ocean and he's like, I'm done. You took me from my family. You took me from everything. And you told me to come here and now you're gonna just kill us all in this red sea that stands before me. And he lays on the ground. That's actually biblically sound right there though. He lays on the ground because the Bible says while they slept, the water separated. He lays on the ground and when he wakes up, the sea looked a little empty. But I love the fact that he had to recognize it was the time to go. They didn't know how they were going to cross. Pharaoh was hunting them down. He laid on the ground and said, listen, we might as well just take a break right here because we ain't got nowhere to go. But while they slept, the sovereign, the God that controls the elements. You think it's hard in school? Go to God and say, Lord, you created this. Teach me. You think it's hard on your job? Go to God and say, Lord, you created this. Teach me. Because he's sovereign. There is nothing that you're dealing with that God will not be able to give you an answer if you ask. He lays on the ground and then he gets up in the morning and the water has receded. And he recognizes, wait a minute, it's time to go because God has moved. You got to recognize who's sovereign. I was in college, anatomy and physiology. They wanted to kick my butt, it did, I promise you. And I remember one day I sat outside and I was like active in church. I was doing everything. So I was like at church every day and I had like school and God knows. We have Monday night service, we're getting out at midnight. I had to be at 8 o'clock anatomy and physiology class for 2 hours. Showed up. I sat one day because it was kicking my butt and I sat on the stoop. And I said, God, you created this body. You created the bones. You created a skeleton system. Teach me, Jesus. I promise you I did. I promise you. They thought I was crazy walking past me on our break. The next day, I was like, okay, I got this. I got this. My mom used to hate me because I used to go home like, come here. And I used to use her body as my little sculpture. Who's sovereign? You can never forget that nothing is outside of the control, the reach, the subjugation of the one you serve. The day you forget that, you're in trouble. The day you forget, you're in trouble. Because it will overtake you, surely it will. It will stress you, surely it will. It will cause your mind to rock, surely it will. If you don't remember who's sovereign. I want to remind you today, God said to remind the people, I'm sovereign. And in my sovereignty, I've given them sovereignty. So when you feel all strength is gone, go back and say, Lord, you, the only wise God, the only sovereign God, the God that has crowned me with glory and honor, give me insight today. Give me a word of wisdom today. Give me the word that you need me to have this moment. And you will not lack what you need if you ask God, because he's sovereign. And if he has spoken, then he's sovereign. Then he's sovereign. Now you got to believe him. If he's spoken already, then now you just got to believe him. If you ask him and he answered, you can't keep badgering, because he's sovereign. And when the king decrees something, it must be established. Now you just got to believe him. It can be difficult to believe, but you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. And I'm done. You don't have a choice. You got to believe. You don't have a choice, because it's all you have. You have nothing else but your faith. And without your faith, you cannot please God. So if he's spoken already, then know he's sovereign. And if he has not spoken and you've forgotten that he's sovereign, know he's sovereign. And if you caught up in a whirlwind, let yourself be grounded again by saying, God is sovereign. You got to know who's sovereign. That sky out there that looks so beautiful, sovereign. The Bible says the earth declares the glory of God. Showeth his handiwork. Day on today uttered speech. This is why you got to know the word, because it teaches you how sovereign your maker is. You want to walk in promise every day? Then you got to live in the spirit. You got to take on his character. You want to take on his character? You got to know his word. We got to know he's all powerful, all by